European Affairs Editor Catherine Nicholson is with me. And Catherine, first, take us a step back if you can. What does it actually mean for France to hold the presidency of the European Council?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a concept that we're all totally au fait with, is it? It means each member state of the EU gets to hold this title for 6 months at a time, and they take it in turns. There are 27 member states, so it only comes around every 13 and a half years. France is going to be organising and running a lot of top-level meetings involving, ministers and leaders. So meetings of the agriculture ministers, meetings of the foreign ministers of all the member states. As such, it gets to arrange, the agendas of these meetings and can have some influence on its own policy priorities by doing that. It also gets to host its own summit, as we've heard. So France is going to be hosting a summit in March on the topic of EU defence. This is a really big focus for Emmanuel Macron, has been for some time. He said, a little while ago that NATO had become brain dead, lost its way strategically. And we've seen more and more EU states and leaders come over to Emmanuel Macron's point of view that the EU member states themselves need to have even more defence cooperation, especially as tensions and threats are rising, with Moscow, with Beijing particularly. That's the official side of things. There's also a bit of an unofficial side, the off, as they call it in French. France's opportunity to influence its EU neighbours in the sidelines, in the corridors, in the informal ways around these meetings. I've even heard French diplomats say that some member states enjoy this even more than the official side, and they see it as a greater opportunity to spread their influence. The United Kingdom has been brought up a few times as being one of the member states when it was in the EU that really enjoyed this more behind-the-scenes approach, getting to whisper in ears a little bit more.
And the timing of this is all quite interesting, isn't it, Kat? Because Macron will take on this role while also campaigning for the French presidency at the same time.
Exactly. It seems like the clash of all clashes. As I said, the presidency of the European Council, 6 months long, but there are only really 3 clear months before the French election campaign gets into full swing. France did actually have the option of switching the calendar around with another EU state to hold the presidency at another time. But the French government, Emmanuel Macron, chose to keep this slot. So it is likely that Emmanuel Macron sees this timing as an advantage. Now, we can say it's certainly clear that he will get a bigger stage. He'll get more chances to be prominent, to be presidential, to talk about France, to talk about France's interests and show himself off to French voters as someone who's defending their interests and show off his European credentials as well. He is very Europhile. That's no secret. It's fair to say he's the most Europhile among all of the front runners in the presidential election at this point. It does, though, on the minus side, mean a more intense presidency. Those meetings are going to have to be really crammed in to get them all done. And for the campaign and election period itself, it's not actually going to be the French government that's having so much involvement and influence. It's going to be handed over much more to diplomats, to civil servants. And so that does take away some of France's opportunities to have that influence that we were talking about just before.
Catherine Nicholson, thanks very much.